probably terrified. I mean, what they're doing to you now, imagine if you ran away from them and they got you back. It's probably going to be 50 times worse, if it could be 50 times worse. And I mean, that's got to be terrifying. So she was forced to drink urine and eat human feces.
Was it her own, though?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
I know it doesn't make it any better, but...
I don't know.
If it was me, I would hope it would be my own, at least.
I'm with you.
I know it's a hard thing, but yeah.
I didn't think about it that way. I absolutely agree with you, but also I would hope that it's not real. I don't want to do that. So, but in addition to making her drink the urine and eat the feces, she had to do it while smiling the whole entire time. If she did not smile, they would beat the shit out of her until she was happy about eating and drinking what she was eating and drinking, because it's, again, they're just really stand-up people. They're really great. They just wanted her to have a good time. For over a month, they kept her captive and continued to torture, rape, and abuse her. And on the morning of April 15th, Lao Ming found Fan lifeless on the floor. This was just one of those nights that they were so nice to her and let her sleep on the floor instead of hanging up. So, I mean, at least that's nice. Not that it's nice that she died, but at least she didn't die hanging from her wrists from the ceiling. Like, she had an opportunity to lay on the ground. There's no sugarcoating it, but I mean, if it was me, at least I'd feel better about being able to curl up in the fetal position, and that sounds awful. After the discovery of her body, she was moved into the bathtub inside the apartment, and they used a saw to dismember her body so that they could figure out what to do with her next. They dismembered her and put her body parts in baggies and put her in the fridge.
That's where I like to keep mine.
We have a picture of Lao Ming like squatting next to this refrigerator full of Fan Man-Yee's body parts, because why would you not, like a trophy hunter, like sitting next to it, like so proud, this is mine, I did this, look at me, good job, Mom. So they put her in the fridge, but obviously even when you have deli meat in the fridge, like, it does not last very long in there, so the body still started to decompose and decay, and it started to smell really bad, and they were trying to figure out what to do with it. So to stop it from rotting and making the apartment smell horrid, they started to boil her on the stove piece by piece next to the food they were cooking. What if you eat out of the wrong pot?
Hopefully it's seasoned well.
Not entirely sure that they seasoned it, but also no. No, babe. Once all the pieces were boiled and cooked, the remains of her body were mixed in with just like the regular household garbage, and then they just like spread her across Hong Kong in different dumpsters.
So like a human compost.
Basically. Well, no, compost you put in a garden. They just cooked her and threw her away. Yeah. It would have been better if they gave her back to the earth, but they didn't, because they're shit people. It wasn't until 5 weeks later, on the morning of May 24th, 1999, that Lau Ming Feng, the 14-year-old, walked into a Hong Kong police department to report that she was being haunted by a ghost. And I really fucking hope she was. I hope that Fan Man-Yee was torturing the shit out of this bitch for 5 fucking weeks. And she really was seeing her, and she really was fucking terrified, because she deserves it. I wish that she was haunting all of them, but clearly this is the only one that told the police she was being haunted by a ghost. But for her sake, I hope it's true. But the police laughed at her. There's like this, excuse you. There's this tiny little girl here saying I'm being haunted by a ghost, so obviously they're not going to take it seriously. They're going to tell her to get the hell out of there.
As per usual.
As per usual. But But she kept going. You know, she told them for several weeks she had been haunted by the ghost of a helpless woman, bound with electrical wire, and tortured to death. She was a little more specific that time, other than just a ghost. And they were still like, okay, you can go home now. We don't want to hear any more of it. And then she told them that she was seeing the ghost of Fan Man-Yee. And she admitted that it was a woman that she had a hand in torturing and murdering. And then they were like, oh, wait a minute, we should probably listen to this little girl. She's trying to tell us something. You know, like Lassie. Little Timmy fell in the well. Yeah.
I made it out okay.
You made it out okay. All because of Lassie.
Yeah?
Yeah, let Lassie go. So they followed Lao Ming back to the apartment it was in the Kowloon district. They began to process the scene, but unfortunately they were not able to recover much of Fan's remains. While collecting evidence, one of the officers thought to look out the window, and then below him he noticed a garbage bag that was resting on top of one of the first floor canopies. So remember, they're on the third floor now, so they were just kind of like peeking out all the windows just to see if they saw anything. So they retrieved the garbage bag, and in it they found the decomposed heart, lungs, liver, and intestines of Fan Man-Yee.
Now, I'm assuming when they found all that, they got it all checked out and everything. That's how they found out it was her.
Well, I mean, they did DNA testing, but there wasn't really anything to check out. It was all decomposed. There wasn't anything they could do with it. It was useless to them. It was almost like just like a bag of rotten mush. Because remember, it's been sitting there for 5 weeks.
That's right.
Inside the flat, they found one single tooth and Fan's skull. They had taken her skull and they had sewn it into one of the Hello Kitty mermaid plushies that they had in the apartment. So it was like this just big Hello Kitty head and a mermaid tail. And they sewed her skull into the head of the Hello Kitty doll.
That's a nice choice.
And nobody said why. They asked them why they did it, and like it literally just goes back to them doing shit for fun. They thought it would be fun to put her skull in a Hello Kitty doll.
Maybe there was something special to him. What he cuddled with that night.
It probably is what he fucking cuddled with that night. Big ass fucking man-child. To this day, no other remains of her have been found. Not that I would expect them to be finding much more.
Especially after all this time.
After all this time, but the police immediately arrested Chan Man-Lok and Liang Wai-Lun, but they had a little bit of trouble getting to Long Xing-To because he tried to run. And he did manage to stay away from them for about 2 weeks, but they put a flag on his passport, which flagged when he went from Hong Kong to mainland China, and then they picked him up there. If they didn't flag his passport, he would have gotten away. So good thing they were thinking. On October 20th of 2000, the trial began. During this trial, the henchmen and Chan all banded together, saying that while they may have tortured and dismembered her dead body for sure, they 100% did it, they didn't kill her. That she managed to get a hold of drugs and overdose on her own in the apartment.
And since there was no full body, there was no proof.
Basically, yeah. The defense attorney argued that they never meant for it to get to the point that it did, that they all began to panic when her infected wounds began to pus and stink from infections that needed blatant medical care, which of course they could not get for her because that would arise too many questions and raise too many red flags, which would lead the police to finding out what they had done to her. So the only logical thing was to keep her there and do what they were doing so they could protect themselves from getting into any trouble. But it wasn't to hurt her. They never meant to hurt her. There's a quote actually from the court. I get angry every single time I read it. So the defense attorney said, quote, "They probably felt unable to release the deceased without putting themselves in jeopardy." End quote. Well, they should be in jeopardy. That is not a defense. That's not a defense. You can't use that. Oh, they didn't want to let her go because then they'd get in trouble. Why is anyone even listening to that? Why was he even allowed to say that? It's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard in my life. It's not the dumbest thing. I've heard dumb things, but it's one of the dumbest things that I've ever heard in my life. The trial lasted until December 7th of 2000 when the judge ruled and charged the three with manslaughter. Not murder.
Just manslaughter.
Manslaughter. Because there wasn't enough evidence President? Yeah, okay. Swore an oath. There wasn't enough evidence present to prove that she didn't die of an overdose. So there was still a chance that it was possible. So he couldn't put them away for murder because how do we know she didn't overdose in the living room of the house that she was being held captive in for over a month? How do we know? Chan Man-Lak, Lung Xing-cho, and Lung Wai-lun were sentenced to life with a possibility of parole in 20 years. So not only did they get manslaughter, not murder, they got life with a possibility of parole. They got the chance to get out. If I'm ever going to commit a crime, I'm going to do it in Hong Kong.
Oh, absolutely.
Because clearly you can just do what you want.
Do you think it had any connections to him being triad?
I don't know.
It's a possibility.
Well,
how high he is.
But see, he was the highest one. And, well, he doesn't, I'll tell you, hold on. So, Chan Man-Lak, Lung Xing-cho, and Lung Wai-lun were all sentenced to life with a possibility of parole in 20 years. And Lao Feng testified against all three of the men for immunity. So nothing ever happened to her. And she did change her name.
So she was able to get away.
She was able to get away, change her name, went on about her life. I mean, she was still a baby, really, at that time. So the judge saw pity on her. And, I mean, fine. But she also still should have had to do something because you helped. You helped. You knew. You didn't do anything. You didn't ask anyone for... You didn't go get help for her until it was 5 weeks later and you were, like, traumatized to the point where you were seeing her in your everyday life. So,
and it's not reported that they found that picture of her posted up next to the fridge, right?
Yeah, that's report. They know. They saw it.
And they still did nothing.
Well, no, because she was a key witness. So, I mean, it happens in the court systems a lot. You know, you have someone who's going to testify against the worst people. It's like you have to pick the lesser of the evils. And she was the lesser of the evils. She was a 14-year-old girl. So, Lung Xing-cho filed for an appeal in 2004, which his sentence was then reduced to 18 years. So he went from life with possibility of parole in 20 years to 18 years. Just 1-8. That's it. So frustrating. He was released back into public, and in 2022, I was going to try to do math for a second because I'm like, oh, he was released in 2004 and in 2022, but I'm not mathing that, so you can do the math yourself. In 2022, he was arrested. Can you guess why?
Why?
For sexually assaulting a 10-year-old.